With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Siebert.
Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief, lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round April of 2006. Took over 100 pieces of shrapnel, had my last rites read to me, and I'm lucky to be alive. In dealing with all this, my life has always been a little bit strange, but even more strange after being hit with a mortar round and all the things that I had to do for the physical injuries to get through that, and then start dealing with the mental injuries and things of that nature. One of the cool things about today's show, and we're going to talk about what PTSD looks like and how it works and all these different symptoms that it works with me. And, I'm lucky enough to have Combat Vet Vision right here on sitchradio.com. I'm lucky to be surrounded by combat vets that help me navigate the system to other veteran organizations, the Warrior Built Foundation, PTSD Foundation of America, peer-to-peer mentorship right there. Warrior Built being combat is vocational recreational support for our combat vets, and so many other organizations that are doing some incredible things out there. And the diagram that I'm using today actually came from the National Veteran Resource .com. So if you look up nationalveteransresource.com, you can find this diagram from them. And it was important for me to kind of look at it. And although it says some things, I'm gonna get into it. But as I go through each one of these things, as I'm going through and talking about it, I'm also going to talk about what I'm doing about it so that it doesn't totally affect my life in the most negative ways that so often it does. So as we get into it, I just want you to kind of think about that and think about what maybe somebody out there is dealing with this. And again, this podcast is designed for my opinion. It's my life. It's what I'm doing with it. It's this. It's that. There's a lot of different resources out there. There's a lot of different sources I get my stuff from. But really, it's a lot about my experiences and those that come on. It's about their experiences too. And I have some really awesome guests that tell their stories. And even then, we have to screen our stories because society doesn't adapt to the whole full picture and rawness of what war brings. And it's just I talked about it not too long ago. Where's combat's place in society, and it's really hard to get there. So we'll get off with this first one. Avoid thinking of the trauma. When you talk about the trauma, for me, getting hit with a mortar round from the enemy. I was, standing on a porch, the mortar round came in, boom. And even then, I didn't fully grasp what had happened. My focus was all crazy. My experience or my recollection of what happened wasn't exactly the way that it did. And my timing was off, meaning, I thought this explosion happened to my back, but it had already blown up. By the time my body and my mind registered it, it was already some time had passed. So you talk about avoid thinking of the trauma. Where am I going to sit down all the time and think about getting hit with that mortar round? What happens is I don't. And little vague pieces of it pop into my mind from time to time. And when I hear an explosion, when I hear something pop, backfire, fireworks, 4th of July. But 4th of July, I'm expecting it. So the effects aren't as severe, or I've already I wanted to put myself through the experiences so that I could get myself comfortable enough to deal with it on, a better playing field. So I expected that. I love the 4th of July. I think it's a great time. I think it's the closest to America that we ever hopefully have to listen to explosive devices go off in a manner that's similar to war. So when you think about that, avoid thinking of the trauma that happens all the time and all the pain that I have. I avoid thinking about that most of the time because I want to make it to that door. I want to do this. I want to do this in life. I want to I want to feel somewhat normal. And what does that feel like? Well, when you get into all the rest of these, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of barriers I have to cross. There's a lot of energy used to deal with it. And you get back to the flashbacks. So again, I talked about the explosion, and sometimes a backfire sets it off, and I have this flashback of being right there, and it was just like this huge explosion, and my body kind of feels it again, and it's just a memory that sends me back. Or I'll have such a crazy nightmare that I'll think that that nightmare is an actual situation, and it takes me a while to get my grounding. So what do I do about all these things? Is that I go to Warrior Group through the PTSD Foundation of America on Tuesday nights. I go down and race Baja from time to time with the Warrior Build Foundation. I'm constantly engaged with other combat vets to listen to their stories and what they're dealing with and how they're dealing with life, um, what programs they're involved with, and and it just gives me hope that there's always something out there. That there's a battle buddy that I can call. There's all these different things that I do throughout my day to kind of um, I have to really spend a lot of time on my body, working it out in different ways, modifying my workouts in order to get through the day, different things like that. So when you talk about these flashbacks, it puts a lot of tension on the muscles, the nerves, the everything. So I have to find time to relax. I have to coordinate a lot of energy reduction. Um, and I have to focus on trying to balance my day constantly. Cannot concentrate. Concentration is a little hard because um, maybe the hypervigilance is up, or and I'm just going over things for me, and there's tons of other things that as I go through this, some of you out there are thinking like, hey, but what about this, what about that? um, One of the biggest things that I remember is the adrenaline rush of it. The cannot concentrate because my adrenaline rush has been spun up, and some of these things are super awesome. I just love to have that adrenaline rush because I had it over there, kept me hyper vigilant. It allowed me to feel and be better on my toes, and to be able to basically focus on everything. That way, I have the best chance of surviving. Uh, when we're out and about, we are patrolling, we're doing our different things. We are engaged with the villagers. We're checking on stuff. There were chances that things would happen, and they did a lot. And some of those things that happened just kind of slide through my mind like they weren't that important because something else was so intense. But when you look back at it, you're like, wow, that thing was crazy. Mortar rounds were coming many times before, and we had to get out of there. Buildings were blowing up right next to us and different things like that, and we were rolling. um, in Habania, the same place I went back and lived with the Iraqis on my third tour. So when I look back at some of these things, it's just like cannot concentrate because the adrenaline rush is all over the place. Hypervigilance is up. The pain factor is in effect. Um, I'm wondering how safe I am, things like that. So concentration levels are very hard. So when I'm trying to do something, I get a little scattered. Even when I'm doing my podcast here, I get scattered because I'm thinking about some of these other things that are dealing with, and I have to sit there and truly, really try to concentrate and navigate my mind so that the articulation of what I want to say and how I feel comes across correctly with those that are presented in front of me, or you on the other side of this podcast. Negative thinking. I fight this a lot, and the negative thoughts are always like, hey, the what ifs. When you look at everything you do in combat or you go into the situation, um, one of the coolest things that you hear about is in the combat life saving course. Straight up says in combat, Marines will die. And there's no guarantee in life except for death. And so when you talk about these negative thinking, this negative thought process, it's there because everything past that hopefully feels a little bit positive so you can move forward in a positive direction. So there's a lot of negative thoughts. I'm not good enough for my family. I'm too stressed out to deal with all these things. Um, there's a whole bunch of other things. I'm not good enough for this. I'm not good enough for that. I'm dealing with this. Nobody understands me. Nobody can understand. Nobody can get it. There's a a lot of things that are wrapped up in that. And what am I doing about it? I'm staying engaged with people that I care about, that care about me, that went to combat with me, possibly, or went to combat, period, and can relate. Um, I'm trying to make sure I stay engaged with my family properly. I'm trying to engage with people around me properly. I don't spend a lot of time telling people exactly what I'm thinking all the time because it may come across in such a bad way. And so these negative thoughts, along with the adrenaline rush, along with the confusion, along with the lack of sleep, all these things compile. And unless you're balanced and you're eating right, you're trying to get a little exercise. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm doing to benefit that and to really help it because guys that went to combat, our adrenaline rush takes 60 hours for us to um, uh, digest all the adrenaline that's in our body sometimes. So when I looked at this, to hear this story about this is kind of crazy. Somebody being chased by a bear, their adrenaline might stay in their body for 2 hours, 3 hours after the situation, depending on the amount of trauma. For somebody who had to be over there in combat, hypervigilance all the time, it's a 60-hour digestive process. So sleep doesn't happen when you have this huge adrenaline all the time and nightmares that pop off. And then you got this big adrenaline rush kicking in and all this different stuff. So you talk about the next one, which is sleep difficulty. Um, and that's all because somewhat of the adrenaline rush that's there, the thoughts, it takes a long time to kind of come down from the day. So you stay up really late. You wake up in the middle of the night and have to deal with some thoughts. Um, you have to check the doors to make sure that they're locked, everything's secure. You want to do a check, and by then you're kind of wide awake, and you try to go back to sleep, and by then it's time to get up. So it's hard. There's all these different things. Feeling guilty or shame. Yeah, when I came back, I remember the first thing, I was in the bed. And I'm the corpsman. I wasn't supposed to be the guy that got hit. I left my team, and I felt like I was a great asset to my team. And my MIT team, I was over there with the MIT team, embedded with the Iraqi military, helping them take over their country. Everything that we did was super important. My counterpart was a medical officer in the Iraqi army. Um, and we were trying to help them take over their country, and I got pulled out of it. There was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of guilt, and then to find out that the corpsman that replaced me didn't necessarily live up to the standards that I was taught as a corpsman. One corpsman that I heard would stay in the vehicle and not get out. And when things were going off, and it's like, hey, you're part of this whole thing. Yeah, you can make the excuse that, hey, you got to stay safe in case someone gets hurt, but the best medicine on the battlefield is fire superiority. So then I'm feeling guilty because I hear about these guys that just didn't live up to the expectations or the mission or the esprit de corps or camaraderie, the brotherhood. So there's a lot. What do I do about it? I stay engaged right now. Um, I'm still living the dream of helping our combat vets. I'm still in the mission. I'm still doing a lot in Combat Vet Vision, PTSD Foundation of America, Warrior Built Foundation, other coordinated efforts with combat vet support. This is what I do, and so that's what I'm doing about it. Um, I'm taking every step possible to move forward in a positive direction, although I'm still dealing with a lot of these things, but I'm dealing with them in healthy manners. I'm not over abusing any medications. Naproxen is the most I'm taking. Um, Alcohol use very rarely. It's not an alcohol is not a source for me to say, hey, I'm using this to sleep. I'm not using it to do anything to counter any of these issues. Not using drugs to do it either. Naproxen only when I put my ankle through a whole bunch of stuff that I probably shouldn't have done in the first place. But you know what? I want to live life. Maybe I wanted to try to run, 20 meters today, and yeah, it didn't work out. Tomorrow I'm really hurting, so it's time to take a naprosyn. But I don't even want to take too many of those either. Negative mood swings. You expect a certain thing, even with your friends, your family. You have these high expectations. Um, it's like everything must be a certain way, so my mood kind of stays like on this whole, hey, it has to be like this or it's messed up. And you can rub people the wrong way with this. And I could see, I take a tactical stance when I'm driving. Maybe my driving's a little bit uh, very aware, but I might be considered a lane predator. If there's a lane open, I'm in it, and onto the next open space, and tactically driving, because I feel like it keeps my hypervigilance up, and the adrenaline that I like to feel. I understand I need that, but I need to be safe about it. I need to make sure that I'm always aware that other people are involved, other things are involved, and I need to take care of those things. So these are all things that I'm doing. Always on guard. Uh, so true. Um, I think General Madison, I really dig the fact that he put this out there. He's like, I'm begging with tears in my eyes to please just get along, but I have a plan to kill everybody. You can't even say that anymore uh, without it offending somebody. But the truth of the matter is that you want to be on your best behavior. You want to enjoy life. You want to do this stuff. And I'll give you the opposite of that example, which would be uh, the non-violent negotiation course, put together through the school districts to like do this whole dance thing, and they never tell you in the end, if there's no other option, fight your way out of it. And that's what was really kind of hard for me. Where General Mattis's statement is, if something's going to happen, do the best you can with what you got, with tears in your eyes, but have a plan to kill everybody. It's to be really aware that your life is in danger. And in combat, that's what you got. In combat, that's what you got. Um, so often, you hear, hey, we're totally surrounded by the enemy. I've got them where I want them. Kind of. These are the kind of things that you hear, and you're like, is that really a true statement? Are you ever going to be a corpsman all by yourself with Marines? You were trained for that. And then finally, it really is true. It's a true statement. This has truly happened. This is truly the way life is when you go into combat. Um, but people can't relate to this, and society can't relate to it. But here I am in this negative mood or always on guard kind of situation, and people are like, hey man, why are you so happy about this situation that almost killed us? Well, because we lived through it, and it doesn't always fit the narrative. But you can't always be happy about the situation when it's really screwed up, because people don't understand that you just went through this traumatic situation somewhere else in life that doesn't seem as traumatic as they want to make it out to be. And for you, it was just like a walk in the park. But you just stay always on guard. But that guard means a lot of different things. You're constantly this tactical driving, all these things that I talk about, hypervigilance. What am I doing about it? Well, I'm being aware about it. I'm not necessarily in a real mood to be a bad mood, but I got the adrenaline rush going, but I want to be able to articulate to people what's going on. Hey, I just need this adrenaline rush, and then I'm going to come back down. Everything will be okay. I need to get through this situation. I know I seem a little bit like harsh, like look before crossing the street. Um, but really, I mean, let's look before crossing the street, please. let me ask nicely, but it's a dangerous situation. So let me yell at you as you cross the street without looking, or you're not wearing your seatbelt, or uh, you're driving like you can't wait until next year shows up. So, but you got a long way to go. Um, so I seem a little bit rough around the edges because I'm always on guard, and the negative moods, you know, but they're not real all the time for me. It's more like, hey, I need to feel that way, so I get this feeling, um, and then it comes down, and I'm able to articulate it to other people as they freak out about it, or whatnot. Loss of interest. Yeah, you used to have all these different things that maybe you like to do. You like to maybe go shopping, go out in public, go watch movies, go do this, go do that, watch war movies, watch things, this, and this. And I lost a lot of my interest in a lot of things. Um, whether it's even sex or anything, some of those things get lost. And where do you find your happiness at? You got to start picking up new hobbies, things that maybe are a little bit more interesting. I'd like to work out a little harder, but my hernia is always popping out. My stomach, got to push that in, and then I got to worry about my ankle, and I got to have like these weird conversations with it, and like, hey man, you're gonna do this today. And then my good ankle hurts, and I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? You didn't even have a problem, and now you're telling me you do. Um, so these weird kind of things happen. So I become interested in talking to myself, and I become interested in maybe things that aren't as healthy as they should be. But um, you need to find the interest to get out of bed. You need to find the interest to be motivated to maybe do a 15-minute yoga, not a 30. You need to be motivated to go out and work out outside, or just take a walk, a stroll, um, be involved in something. Maybe learn to pick up, going out and getting a coffee or something like that, starting that, but then bringing it outside into kind of a not such a dangerous place, or still enjoy the fireworks on the 4th of July, but do it from afar, but realize what it means, and not hold everybody accountable for not appreciating it as much as you. Or there's a lot to that. When you lose that interest, it's rough, but what are you doing about it? you know all these things I always ask, hey, you're dealing with all these things, and so often so many people are dealing with them, but what are they doing about it? What what are you doing about the bad things that happen in your life to positively move forward in a positive direction? And you got to ask yourself that question, and then you got to get involved, and you got to get involved with yourself, and maybe get others involved, so you have those battle buddies. Bad dreams, and that's kind of the final one here. But it goes back to the flashbacks, and I talked about the bad dreams. But for me, bad dreams, it's weird. I didn't always know what triggered them. And recently, I found out, like sleeping in a super hot environment, kind of triggered some bad dreams, because it's super hot environment in Iraq. Um, for the 3 times that I went there, it was super hot. It was cold too. There was cold times, but you know, um, or just sleeping in a different environment kind of can kick that off. So what do I do about the bad dreams? What do I do about the flashbacks? I find grounding techniques. Before I go to bed, I look at the way the light's coming through, just where the windows are open or something like that. And I touch the bed, and I do this whole tapping on the bed right before I fall asleep. So when I do wake up, I tap on the bed again, and it kind of says, "Oh, okay, okay. So you were sleeping. It's not real." It helps me come out of it a lot faster than not. But the bad dreams, you know, um, I've figured, for me, talking about it, talking about all these issues, talking about all these things that are going on, being involved with all these warrior groups and the PTSD Foundation, and Warrior Build, and all these different guys, the combat vets that I hang out with, has been super important to me. Has been the battle buddies to just sit there and say, "Hey man, I just tried to go watch this movie, and I came out of it, and I'm just like, I got this 1,000 yard stare, and I'm just dealing with life. I'm like, hey man, I just need to call somebody." But do you have that buddy? Do you have that person you can call and talk to them and have them not be like, dude, what's wrong with you? Are you out of your mind? What? No, it doesn't matter. You call these battle buddies that I talk to, and they're just like, yeah, dude, I'm in it with you. I understand. Let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. And these are the things that are important. So you can look at this PTSD diagram. When you talk about PTSD, it affects everybody. It affects people in different ways. Um, and some people are immune to it. Some people, whatever it is, they're dealing with life. Um, but no matter what you're dealing with in life, or how life has passed something to you, unless you're a total mute, you're totally isolated, and you want to go be by yourself, that's good to go. You do that. But if you really want to deal with your life, or you want to deal with things, you surround yourself with good people, friends, family, things that are going to matter, and you have these kind of crazy conversations, and you talk about things, and you get it out there on the table. And you talk about it to people, like I said, that care, that matter, not somebody who's going to hold it against you or judge you, or anything like that, but who's going to go there with you and be kind of like, yeah, man, let's do this. Let's talk about it. Let's go to hell together. Let's talk about the life and death situation. Let's talk about this craziness that goes on in our lives, or even a weekly situation that deals with work, family, friends, uh, home life, whatever it is that you're dealing. If you're talking about it, if you're making a difference, if you're touching that nerve, and you're articulating yourself, and being able to explain it, that's what truly matters. That's all that matters, is that you make it through to the next day to be a little bit better about what you're dealing with and what you're talking about and how things are going. But yeah, that's all the stuff that I talk about, I deal with all the time. And I just want to thank, that this was put out by the National Veterans Resources, and it gave me an idea to just kind of go through these things and talk about it for a sec. But hey, that's all I got for this week, and I really appreciate anybody who's listening to this. If you want to get on my show, hit me up. I got a lot of guests coming up in the future to tell their story, to talk about things. Um, but yeah, this is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy chief. Lucky to be alive. One life number 2. Until next time, we'll see you later. Strength and honor. Out.